Is your point?
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, we're nearly ready to rock and roll. About a minute. I reckon there's a better way to do it. I just don't have the smarts or wherewithal to work this out.
Oh,
Yeah, no.
it's obviously working.
I don't know what you mean. I don't know, fuck, wrong one. Ha! I'd be surprised to learn that I am not a tech wizard. Although it does seem to.
You're not the grand master of the water buffalo.
No, not of the water buffalo, the Freemasons, the whatever other shit show people want to roll out.
What are Homer was in the Stonecutters, wasn't he?
I think it was the Stonecutters, was it? And Fred Flintstone was in the water buffalo of the. What fuck?
Grand Poobah.
The Grand Poobah, yeah.
Of the water buffalo.
I'll tell you what, that was a fairly
Buffalo
solid piss steak early on in the piece, wasn't it? Rightio, ladies and gentlemen, 7:30 Thursday night. We all know what time that is. It's for the most viewed, the most watched, the most subscribed to, the most supported podcast certainly coming out of T-Town in 2025.
Yeah, it's probably the most current piece of current affairs emanating from Temora. It's certainly leading the charge in terms of subscribers. And
I don't know about subscribers because we don't actually have anything for them to subscribe to, but we do seem to have a hell of a lot of people that are tuning in, keeping a good eye on what we're up to over the week.
After the terrific
guest last week,
terrific interviews with Andrew Thaler last week, and that was highly entertaining.
Very entertaining.
There's a wealth of information.
He's a very unique fellow, but I did warn people at the start of the show that he'd probably swear a bit. I think he was actually pretty good to be honest with everybody. I think he was very well behaved.
Subjected to some of the stuff he'd subjected to, I'd be swearing like a pirate.
Well, look, and we are going to have to get him back in a few weeks because the next day after coming on doing it Spin Doctors, I don't know if it was necessarily in conjunction with or whether it was free. Apparently, quite a large number of police officers raided his business facility / home and a few other things. So I'll be looking to get some clarification on that. But let's be fair, as far as this Snowy Mountains police station goes, and again, I always have to try and walk a fine line because I do quite have a lot of police officer friends and relatives. But it seems to me like there's dodgy as shit house rats up there. One side of the aisle, they're tasering nanas to death and getting 2-year good behaviour bonds. And on the other side of it, they're raiding, targeting councillors who are calling corruption into question.
The DPP, I think, are challenging the leniency of the sentence relative to the police officer.
If they don't, we know full well that that's corrupt and that's rotten. And if that is the case that they are, well, that gives me at least a little bit of hope that perhaps the whole thing isn't completely rotten to the core.
I think the DPP are challenging sentence for what was the taser. I think that
taser will get you pretty close, I reckon, to appeal Christian White's sentence. Good, as they should. 2-year good behaviour bond is laughable for what is murder. There's no other way to put it. He murdered that nana, and I have no sympathy for him. He should be absolutely thrown into a jail cell and in general population, and you get what you get.
Look, it's just a really unfortunate set of circumstances, but it's just hard to imagine a situation where
I can't come up with one situation where a little old lady, I don't care if she's holding a fucking machine gun, where a big strong bloke like that, who I reckon, looking at him just from the images, he'd be bigger than you or I, big lad, and this frail little 90-year-old lady comes out wielding a butter knife, if I recall, and this bloke shits himself and decides he's got to taser this nana to subdue her. How about hit her with a pillow? How about just go, give me the knife, nana? Problem solved. Or, this is ridiculous. It's disgusting and he needs to go to jail. I know I would be in jail if I did that. You would be in jail if you did that. And the fact that he got a 2-month jail sentence is embarrassingly disgusting.
But he doesn't have to serve it.
Well, that's even worse, isn't it?
So he got a 2-year
suspended sentence,
2-year community corrections order with some community service. Now I've seen people with DUIs get.
I'm one of them.
More than
and let's be fair. Like, I'm not condoning what I did, but I haven't found a dead body near anything I've done.
No, it was just a really unfortunate set of circumstances. And of course, back to our guest last week. he got caught up in that. He got labelled some sort of interfering sort of individual, but as you could tell from one of the
guests who's a granddaughter of the lady Claire Nowland who died,
and was quite forthright in her belief that he had authority to speak on behalf of the family.
And I guess there's the point, because I don't know if you saw any of the news coverage after it. The family seems somewhat divided on what their expectation, and that's part of the challenge of families. A certain element of that family is a very big supporter of Andrew Thaler, and they reach out for help. Now, some of the other members of the family might not like that. Well, that's just, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. I'm sure my brother and sister have got friends that I don't like. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but that's how families work. So I think the way that Andrew's been portrayed is probably a little bit more to do with his personality and some of the other activities he's involved in than anything that went on there.
Yeah. So anyway, it was enlightening. I couldn't fault the bloke. There was nothing that no red flags went up with anything he said in relation to me. There was one unanswered question that I'll save if we get him back on. The reason it was unanswered because I never asked it. There's just one thing I wanted to ask him, but I never got around to it.
Yep.
But anyway,
it does happen.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Okay, so that was really good. Now, just as a follow-up, it's funny. There was a lot of talk about the Taylor family, Angus Taylor, Bronnie Taylor.
Yeah.
Big people in Australian politics.
Absolutely.
Bronnie's retired now, but Angus is still there front and centre and shaping up for a...
Oh, he's having a crack. He'll be having a crack at the prime ministership in the next few years. And I don't doubt that he'll get it.
Yes. Now, he grew up in Nimidabel, which is where Mr. Thaler lives now. So he'd have fairly deep roots in the Nimidabel community and a fair bit to say around the place, and they've got a fair bit of pull. But it was interesting. I was just doing a bit of research, and one of his real highlights, he's had a couple of lowlights, a couple of business failures.
Sure. But, as anybody who's had businesses, they're going to get punched in the face sometimes, that part.
But one of the highlights, and this is what is regarded as his greatest success in business, or, was projects. Around 1994, he was working for a company. Projects took him to Korea, the US, and the UK. But most notably to New Zealand, where he worked with dairy farmers to create a new business model for their industry, right? Now, Taylor spent 4 years working on a master plan to unify the bitterly divided industry into a single national champion. His analysis found it cost New Zealand farmers around $12 US to produce 100 kilos of milk product, making them the world's most efficient producers. From there, he recommended the 10,600 dairy farmers form a multinational dairy cooperative. Fonterra was launched in October 2001. 2 decades later, it was regarded as one of the most successful strategic decisions in agribusiness history, and is used as a business transformation model at Harvard Business School. Taylor returned to Sydney, and on it went. Now, in 2001, the New Zealand dairy industry were pulling together a fragmented marketing model where they were getting basically picked off and divided by the buyers. They had no muscle, they had no clout. Yeah. They were obviously doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, create good products.
But they had no strength because they had no unity.
Yep.
They unified under a cooperative.
Yes.
And obviously it was a smash hit. Now, in direct comparison, in 2005, the United Nations Oil for Food scandal made international headlines and destroyed Australia's monopoly wheat export system known as the single desk. At the heart of the scandal was AWB Limited, which was grower owned.
Yes.
They used to pool, much like Fonterra's massive success.
Yeah.
They used to pool their product, and they had some marketing weight.
Yes.
and they used to command a price. Now, one of the most trotted out or most heard comments that I hear is wheat prices haven't gone up in 20 years. You know, we're still getting the same money we got 20 years ago. Well, in 2005, you dismantled the single desk and allowed multiple people to market your product and offer you a price.
Yes.
And, you know, everyone thought that was a great idea, particularly the people who were going to be buying the grain, like the multinational grain exporters, such as your Cargills and others.
Yeah. Of course.
You know, that came in and took the place of.
Replace the Australian Wheat Board.
Yes. Now, that article goes on, and look, there's been forests cut down for the amount of stories that have been written. There's a comment here from a grower. Victorian farmer Nick Shady, not a politician.
That's not a politician. Yeah.
Isn't too optimistic about the future of Australia's wheat market. I think the future of the grain looks like we are at the moment probably a race to the bottom about how much they can pay, really, he said. Divide and conquer.
Oldest strategy in the world.
So, you know, what are we going to have to wait for another 20 years and they're going to be going, we got 40 years ago, we got this much money for our wheat.
Well, you know, look, obviously in the commodity space today, Australia's sort of taken a bit of a razzing over Trump's stance on a few things.
He took it easy on Australia to some extent.
Of course he did. Look, and I think it's more of a just sort of a control mechanism. He's basically pulled everyone's card in the globe and said, listen, you either play ball or I'm going to be an ass.
We've got a big market, and if you want to play in that market, there's a price of entry.
It's going to cost you.
Yeah.
No different to any other business in any other area. You know, if you want to buy Irvine Signs, somebody needs to come to you and pay a price.
He's a little bit like, no, he might be a little bit like Woolworths saying, if you want to sell product in our store, if you want the ends,
yeah,
then you're going to have to put a bit of a special on.
Yeah. Look, and you know, they look at stores like Walmart in the US. You know, like people actually pay to go into Walmart. Because they sell that much volume there that it doesn't matter that you're actually paying for that space. You know, like it's just a way of doing business.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's what the Ronald's doing. And,
I do also detest tariffs from. They are another tax. They are definitely a tax. They're just done in a slightly different way. From that side of it, I don't like it, but I fully understand why he's doing it. I understand the strategy for it, and I hate all tax. So. I'm a bit.
Well, he's trying to encourage some onshore manufacturing.
And there are already companies doing it that are going, oh, look, we'll just start manufacturing back in the US.
Yes.
And you know what? If Australia did a bit of that protection, and it is a bit protectionist, but if we had done that, we'd probably still have some manufacturing here of some value. For some reason, in a country as wonderful as ours, we have some of the highest power prices in the world, some of the highest minimum wages in the world. We have some of the least useful industries being produced.
Well, the reason we need a high minimum wage, and we need a higher minimum wage, because we've got some of the most expensive real estate in the world.
But that all flows on to the other stuff, which is, again, we've also got one of the biggest bureaucracies in the world that we've got to pay for. We've got some of the highest taxes across and everything pushes up.
Yes.
And, you know,
so if we had less government, less taxes, then we'd probably, and less energy costs.
Less energy costs, everything would actually come down and be far more relative to what it is. I firmly believe that we should have the cheapest energy prices in the world.
Oh, we should have.
And if they don't turn around and reboot all this, reboot the coal-fired power stations. I know Blackout Bowen will have a little heart attack, but I don't give a shit. Reboot them. If you want to do your solar and wind, fine, remove all the subsidies, take the handbrakes off, and let's get down to having the cheapest power in the world. And then you watch business boom, and then you watch people's lives boom. The cost of living will fall away because we'll just be absolutely blitzing it.
Energy is the biggest. It's just a critical thing, and they're using it to control people. and manipulate people and
I'd say I'd go even further, destroy people.
well, enslave people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. That's what's going on there.
There's a little bit of background on Angus. There's a couple of interesting stories for consideration. Angus is known. His his biggest achievement in business was to unite a disjointed industry and create some marketing push and create a huge. Yeah.
So and again, I mean, I'm not saying it's all bad. I love voluntary cooperation. But Angus Taylor, the Liberal minister, his biggest achievement was creating a socialist organisation, and that's his biggest success. So I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, Angus, but your biggest achievement is a communist achievement. Good job, son.
Yep.
Now, again, if the Liberal Party did what it said on the box, he probably would have been arseholed out. But
that is unionisation of a whole industry.
Yeah. But
that collective bargaining and
it's powerful as hell.
Yes.
No doubt about it. But I keep coming back to it. I'm all for communism. I think it's great as long as it's voluntary to participate.
Oh, looking at
and it never is, and it never will be, and it can't work. It doesn't work because every time that you participate in communism, you do it or else.
It looks good on paper.
Looks great on paper.
It doesn't take into account human nature.
Do it or else.
Yeah. But even
do it or else.
But even to the point that we're all equal. So some are more equal than others. Some families are more equal than others, and all of a sudden, that family get all the good jobs.
What percentage of what I earn should you get?
Oh,
what percentage of a doctor's wage am I supposed to get?
Yeah. No.
Because we should all get a piece. We've got to share.
Yeah.
You know, what piece of my earnings should the guy sitting at home on the dole get?
Yeah. No, I understand.
It's it's a funny little thing there, well and truly.
So that's wrapped up the loose ends from last week. The numbers were through the roof.
It's certainly the busiest little program we've had yet. Admittedly, it was also the longest. It went for 2 and something or other hours.
Could have gone for another 2.
Oh, easily. Yeah, easily. No problem at all there.
Now, just for some comparison, now the numbers I think were well in excess of 5,000 views.
I think it's sitting at 5,001 on the Facebook, which is the easiest one for me to track.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's up to on the YouTube and the Twitter. I've got no way of seeing what the viewer. Somebody who's good at Twitter can probably show me how to do it. I don't know how to do that. But currently we are live streaming to Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube all at once. So we've worked out the technology so that we can do that. So it'd be a bit like if if they were live streaming the Timor Independent, Pterodactyl FM.
Just to put into context, and I've come across a company here called Regional Media Connect. It was the only place that I found any reference to the circulation of the Timor Independent.
Yeah.
Now, published on a Thursday, so this is reasonably current because I only went back to a Thursday recently. It used to be a Tuesday, Friday.
Yeah, right.
Bi-weekly publication.
Yeah.
I only went back to the single
edition.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah.
Now, population in the circulation area 6,200. That's accurate. That's the population of Temora Shire.
Yeah.
Circulation 1,400. Now here we are sitting at 5,100 just on the Facebook, and they're talking 1,400. So.
For a commercial professional enterprise versus a couple of blokes sitting in your guitar shed.
We're smashing them.
We're going great guns. Great guns. So
Pete, pick up your game.
No, bugger Pete. He can bugger off.
He needs to pick up his
He's
game.
now at the wrong end of the Kiss My Ass Club is where he's at.
He's on the way out.
I'm sure he's watching, and guess what? You can kiss my.
And 1,400 might be flattering. We don't know.
Well, they might be.
That's the only place that I could find.
It might be propaganda information. We don't know.
That's the only
place.
The
cover price is incorrect, so it's possible there's some variable there.
Yes. That's what I could find. And this company is trying to, I think they're aggregators of
data
spend.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But, it looks like all the people who are currently advertising with Pterodactyl FM and the Timor Independent should reach out, and we can maybe run some ads. There's no pay for play though.
No.
You might get me.
You can pay us for the ads, but we're not going to spruik your product or spruik you.
Well, we'll obviously run your ad, but you're certainly not going to be controlling our content.
No
editorial. There'll be no editorial involvement. Like you can, bugger right off there.
We'll sell Teslas if Elon wants us to sell Teslas.
Absolutely, but Elon's not going to tell me what I can and can't say. That's not going to happen. No. Sorry, big fella.
No.
You know,
Doesn't matter how much you got.
you picked the wrong couple of guys. Well, I'll run a Tesla ad, no problem at all. Apparently they keep the sky lit up when they're on fire,
Keep you
all
warm.
sorts of shit to keep you
Keep you
warm
warm
when
on
you're
a cold
cold.
night.
You know, like
There's all sorts of things. Now, we could do local stuff. We could sell clothing, menswear.
menswear. You know what it means? Menswear providers
could
that might want to
We
advertise.
could model some menswear.
I think at one stage somebody asked me if I'd be willing to go down and do one of those.
One
of those fashion things, and obviously, you know, if it's for charity, I'll do just about anything for charity, right? Unlike some people, if somebody said I hate water, if somebody said to me go down the water slide for $1,000 for charity, I'd go down the water slide for $1,000 for charity. You know, like if you ask
I
me,
hate drinking beer. If someone said drink 5 beers for charity, I'd do it.
You know, Look, I'm not going to cut off my finger for charity, but I'm happy enough to do just about anything that isn't going to cause grievous bodily harm for a good cause. And you know, and I have a feeling that somebody put the kibosh on my participation because it went real quiet, real quick when I said yes. And then I got this. Oh no, I think we've got enough people. And I went, no offense taken. Like I'm not that sensitive, but I did. You know, you make little mental notes and you go.
Now, mental notes. Remember when we talked about the resheeting or the ceiling of Currajong Street?
Yeah.
And how it was just an uncanny coincidence that as that street got sealed, council then received a DA.
It's just shocking.
Yeah, in that same
Stunning.
location. So anyway, it must have piqued someone else's interest because on the 20th of March, we get an email come through on the councillor's email from the general manager. Further information regarding Currajong Street, Temora.
What inspired this discussion to come up?
High importance.
High importance. You bet your ass it's high importance.
Good afternoon, councillors. I have received an inquiry from a councillor. Now, no names. We don't know which councillor.
Which councillor?
Whenever I ask for information, it's always, I've received a request from Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, so it must have been somebody else has asked it. So is that indicating somebody's watching this and they've gone, hang on a minute, that does seem a bit shady.
Yeah, can we have some more info?
Can we have some more info? Maybe there's a crack in the crack in the
or maybe someone said, no, this was all above board. Anyway, about current, please find attached the minutes of the Assets and Ops meeting held on the 9th of August 2022. So that's when the decision
was made.
See report 4.1, adopted, blah, 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 blah. It talks about the money, how much it cost, etc., etc.
I'm pretty sure that was roughly where we come in when we were, if you go back a couple of episodes, we wouldn't have been too far out.
I don't think so. Anyway, these are the papers from the meeting. And there is a recommendation from a council officer.
A council officer? Yeah, right.
Regarding it. Now, let me just download this so that we can, it won't open at the moment, but it will now. Here we go. Right. Now, we've got a report here. And this was the basis of the report. So this is a recommendation. I would propose council apply for the following works. Rural Road Resheet Program Priority 1, Urban Road Initial Sealing Priority 2, McLeod's Lane Causeway Reconstruction Priority 3. The Priority 1 and 3 projects are previous applications that remain unchanged, and the Priority 2 project I would request council consider selecting unsealed roads from the updated urban road list below. Now there we are. We've got Currajong Street listed as a Priority 2.
Yes.
Now, the comment, traffic, okay. Link, okay. Business, okay. Goldfields Way to Tom is required.
Who's Tom?
Tom Street.
I'm not sure.
So Tom Street's only going past the cemetery.
Well, that could be busy at certain times.
Yes, but, you know, Goldfields Way to Tom is required. Well, it is there, and it's just an unsealed road. It's in good order, and you can get to the cemetery 1,000 other ways.
Yes, yes. It is fairly easily accessible, our cemetery.
Goldfields Way to Tom is required. Remainder likely required. Oh, okay. So the section from Goldfields Way up to Tom Street is required. The remainder likely required in the future due to development, but not currently essential. Now, this is what we're talking about. That remainder is the bit that actually goes down to where all the houses are.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not currently essential. We do need the tar where there's no houses.
Well, that's, yes.
But we don't need the tar where where there is houses. That's the sort of report that a council has to make a decision on. Why was it set? Why was it pushed up the list? Why was it a priority 2?
Comment. But traffic link business means nothing to anybody in any particular, with no context, no anything. Just roll out random words. Happy, fat, smelly.
Yeah, just
dollars,
road, dust, gravel,
people, hemorrhoids.
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with people?
Now, anyway, the resolution to put that road in there was moved by Councillor Rick Furman, seconded by Councillor Bushell. And look, I was at that meeting.
Yeah,
but I'm telling you, those descriptions would have gone straight over my head as a first-term councillor.
I can't imagine what. Yeah, there's not a lot of depth there, that's for sure.
No, so that's the sort of stuff that you have to deal with. Then you've got to sit there and go, right, okay, okay, right, yes, maybe, don't know. Link traffic, link traffic,
tree.
Yes. Anyway, so obviously it's hit some sort of a nerve because clearly,
I can't imagine you or I hitting anybody's nerves. No chance.
Clearly, it's elicited a response. Now,
well, good. They're supposed to provide responses. That's kind of what justifies their existence on our ratepayer dollar.
Let's look at
overspending ratepayer dollar.
The papers the last few weeks. So look,
right. Is there anything in this? There's a
couple of things we need to.
I've got to call it a $2.50 rag now, don't I?
Yes, it is.
Because the price is going up.
$2.50 inclusive of GST.
Oh, well,
so you do the math. Divide it by 11, multiply it by 10.
The bankrupt Bugle, the Hit Job Herald.
Now,
what do we got? What do you got? You're looking excited and enthused.
Well, we just saw the circulation figures, and they're talking about 1,400 a week of the Temora Independent.
Yeah, which at $2.50 doesn't exactly set the world alight. I mean,
let's look at this industry.
Take out the obviously the advertising dollars.
When we look at this industry, though, now we've got in March 20th edition of the Temora Independent, we've got a story here.
So
ACM to cease printing regional daily papers.
Now, ACM, for those who don't know,
Australian Community Media.
And
they've got some pretty big papers in the local area.
Yep.
So ACM publishes around 65 regional mastheads, including the Newcastle Morning Herald, the Canberra Times, the Border Mail, and the Wagga Daily Advertiser.
Yeah, right.
So they're pretty prominent papers.
Significant.
The media company has struggled in recent years to sustain a workable business model in the face of decreasing revenues and declining demand for the print product.
Look, I'll tell you what you do. You get a little laptop here and a camera, you plug them in, and you get a couple of blokes just telling the truth here, and people will watch it.
If you tell the truth, but even if they told the truth in the papers, they'd probably sell more papers.
Of course.
They've lost a lot of credibility.
They've lost tons of those. Look, COVID killed the newspapers for an awful lot of people. I think for a lot of people that was already a bit dubious, COVID took a massive percent of the population and went, these people are full of shit.
Yes. Locally, this would mean the Border Mail and Wagga Daily Advertiser daily editions would be available by digital subscription only, something not always embraced by customers who have been reluctant to sign up for longer-term subscriptions rather than pay by paper. Nothing annoys me more than seeing a news story that interests me.
That you can't read.
But it's from the Illawarra Mercury. And I don't want a subscription to the Illawarra Mercury. I just want to read that story.
Sure.
But I don't want to I can't even buy the Illawarra Mercury.
Yeah.
So can I just pay for that story, say 10 cents?
Well,
can I press a button and say 10 cents?
Let me tell you, I'm sure if there was a smart tech entrepreneur out there, you could absolutely
Yeah,
create a
I'm not
way
gonna,
to do that.
I don't believe I should have to buy the whole.
I don't want to
ticket
buy
price
your whole
I paid.
paper. Yeah,
I want to
yeah,
read that article.
yeah, that's right. I mean, I reckon somebody smart enough would certainly be able to
Well,
manufacture a system that would allow something
Even
like
if we
that.
had some sort of a newspaper where you put $50 on it,
And you get
and
to
you
read a
just-
certain amount of stories or
and you just
whatever.
go, I want to read that.
Well, you know, there's
Anyway, that's an option for
that's
these.
an option. ACM, you want to
these
give us a ring?
struggling-
We'll give you some pointers on some strategic things that may help. You know, I don't know, keep your lights on.
Now, the same newspaper and Camillo, our
little mate. I thought he
Camillo
was leaving
Malacari,
now. Is he gone yet?
he's gone.
Oh,
He's gone up to Tumut. He's left Sean Cunningham in charge. And
you know, I still don't know any of these pricks. Right?
Well-
I haven't got a clue who they are.
we'll get to Sean in a minute.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But on his way out the door, Camillo,
Put some sentences together on paper.
he did put some sentences together, and it's a bit of spin again.
It's been no.
So
You-
it says, first step in $24 million Widden project. Okay, now let's just break this down and read between the lines, or read further on than that attention-grabbing headline of this $24 million Widden project. So what they're going to do is they're going to start a project to keep a DA active.
Yes.
So what they're going to do is they're going to upgrade the car park, and then they're going to upgrade a kitchen and a laundry. Now they're going to spend about $3 million. They're not spending $24 million. So the first stage will see the car park upgraded to provide 12 additional spaces for visitors and families and 13 additional spaces for Widden team members. Okay, that's a good move.
Yeah.
Now that's not going to cost $24 million.
I wouldn't reckon.
No.
Well, you probably
Then-
do it for $1 million.
Widden aims to commence this work by May 2025, which is imminent. And the work will be undertaken over a period of 3 months. So it'll be May, June, July, August. So it's going to be done by spring.
Yep.
Beautiful. Stage 2 will then commence and see the kitchen, laundry and home style kitchen renovations. So they'll be expensive, plumbing, electrical.
Yeah. Hopefully some local tradies make a few dollars
Yeah.
out of it. Why not?
These works will prepare Narrabri Lodge for expansion in stage 3. Stage 3 will commence subject to grant support. Oh, okay. So
Who's Grant? Who's Grant and why does he need to
it's a
support it?
$24 million project. We're going to spend 3 and we're going to wait for 21. Now, I think they got offered 5 at one point, but that was nowhere near enough, they deemed. Now, this is quoted from Chris Mammarellis, who's
Who is
actually, Chris Mammarellis is the CEO of
Widden Group or something, is it?
Widden Group.
Yeah, right.
This comment, I think, comes from Regan Stathers, who is the Chief Infrastructure Officer.
Sounds very fancy title there, Regan. Well done.
This first step of development activates our DA and demonstrates Widden's commitment to improving both homes at Temora, they said. So it activates their DA so it doesn't lapse and they don't have to go through the process of doing another DA.
So that's what it is.
So
Excellent.
basically they're doing a couple of little odd jobs around the place to get their DA.
to
Go-
keep it relevant so,
And then-
so the environmental planner and co don't go down and go, no,
No, and
we need you to do that again.
Yeah. And once they start that work, I think they've got the opportunity then to progress that DA and they don't have to. I don't know how they go in response to. I think the DA's approved at the time, at the standards and at the codes relevant at the time, and they
A bit
built
like
to
the
that.
town hall when they did that.
No,
That
well,
was all up to code, wasn't it?
no, they fucked the town hall up. They,
I do like throwing that out there.
No,
You know,
the town hall-
it's a
the
bit
town
efficient.
hall, they built the
efficient.
town hall, and the access is non-compliant.
I know.
Yes. So
That's why I put through the line
Yeah,
out there.
and it
Through the
was-
line out there.
and it didn't comply with the standards that were in place at the time.
Oh, yeah. And
So that's the difference.
and they're the governing body,
Yes,
which
they're the oversight.
Again, this is why we shouldn't have to ask permission from these people for things.
But I think, and
even the nice ones, I don't want to ask their permission. Just
I'm
because I
quite
like them
happy
doesn't mean I want their permission.
if someone wants to correct me here, but I think if they've got an approved DA at the time and they build to that code, then I think they don't have to. If there's changes within the code, I think they're okay.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think it's a good idea to activate their DA, to get the ball rolling, get the shovel in the ground, start doing a bit. But they're absolutely just scratching the surface, aren't they?
Oh, well and truly, yeah.
They're doing $3 million worth out of a $24 million project, and I think it appears as though 21 million of that's going to be subject to grant funding. So we will look at
other people's money as always.
I'm going to stand out on my front veranda most afternoons looking for the pink elephants flying through the sky.
Yeah, fuck.
Waiting for them to land. Now, just 1 week after that, Camillo had obviously moved on.
I'm very sad. Poor Camillo.
And Sean Cunningham took up the baton.
The baton, yes.
And I'm telling you, he wielded the baton with gay abandon.
Gay abandon. Well, it's Mardi Gras week next week, you know?
Huge land release. Now, that is a headline. Huge land release. Let's just look into this one. Right. It's not a huge land release. You can't go and buy a block. It's about a block of ground that is in the Bundawarra housing estate, and it's owned by about 11 different property owners.
Yep.
It's zoned large lot residential.
Yep.
And if some careful thought isn't given to a sensible plan out there, that it's going to be developed in a very ad hoc fashion and probably fairly inefficiently with some pretty poor outcomes for everyone. Now, there was some federal government money floating around.
Of course there was.
From, anyway, we won't go into that, but look.
Which drunken pirate was handing that out at that particular time? Was that a blue gang or red gang?
I reckon it was red gang.
Red gang.
I don't know.
It's interesting that our political parties over here fashion their colours after the Bloods and Crips in Compton.
Yes. This project is funded under the federal government's housing support program.
Well, that's lovely.
So the federal government's throwing a bit of money around trying to get some houses built.
Of course they are.
Now, I'm telling you,
stop letting 200,000 fucking immigrants into the country when we've got no room and nowhere to put anywhere.
But even to the point that the federal government's going to struggle to see any value for money out of this project, like for some time to come. So I don't want people to start ringing up the real estate agent saying, "I want to buy a block."
How good's this? Yeah, we're gonna make a heap of money here. This will be all right.
I want to buy a block because
we've just pulled the bullshit headline out of our bottom. Fantastic.
Exactly, but what it is a master plan. Now there's 11 separate landowners there.
Yeah.
So what they've got to do is they've got to put a plan together that 11 separate landowners will agree to, and then they're going to put a lot layout together. Look, these are the next steps. They have to amend the LEP, the local environmental plan. So at the moment, that land is zoned large lot residential. So it has to be rezoned to R1 general residential. And then there's going to be a reduced minimum lot size so that the lot sizes are conducive to the...
It's all the stroke of a pen, surely. Like you just get on there and you delete the computer contraption.
No, it takes time.
What?
And it all has to be done through...
Give me that bit of paper. I'll get a crayon.
Then you have to amend your DCP. Amend the Temora Development Control Plan 2012 to incorporate the recommendations.
Print that off.
That
I'll get the box of crayons. We'll start colouring it.
Then
you'll be right.
You've got to come up with a developer contributions plan. So you've got to work out what all this development's going to cost.
Yeah.
Right? So sewerage, curb and gutter, roads, the whole box and dice, heaps of it.
Sure.
NBN, gas, power.
No, they don't want gas going to anyone's homes. I mean, they're trying to cut that out. Can't have people cooking with gas.
Council to prepare a developer infrastructure contributions plan to fund the provision of infrastructure across the precinct. which will be levied on a per lot basis. So if you've got the equivalent of 20 blocks of land,
Yeah.
they're going to say, okay, so there's the
So
possibility
you're
here
going
of
to spend this much money.
X amount of blocks.
Yeah.
Here's your pro rata amount. Yeah. So there'll be some who can afford to do it, some who can't afford to do it, some will want to do it, some won't.
Yeah, yeah.
So huge land release, my arse, a long-winded, the beginning of a very long and difficult process has commenced.
Oh,
And-
fucking business as usual, really, isn't it? Like,
And realistically, to see any meaningful outcome in this location in the next 5 years is
not
dream.
going to happen. Yeah.
No, not a hope.
Yes.
I do think that it's very sensible to master plan these spaces. It's disappointing that it hasn't been master planned before this. Temora has got a number of parcels of very, very poorly developed land
No doubt.
that have led to less than desirable outcomes from a land use efficiency standpoint.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I'll give you a look at a couple of these most obvious stuff ups, and these were mistakes made a long time ago,
Yeah.
and they've just led to the underutilisation of a very precious asset. And once they get to a certain point, that you basically can't undo it.
Pardon me.
So let's have a look here. Now, some of these blocks are just nearby us. Victoria Street, there's some there.
Yes, Grant, there he is again, Victoria Road Brewery. This friend of everybody's, Grant's, very, very powerful and important man in Australia. We'd be buggered without him, I tell you, seemingly.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, there he is.
there he is again. Yeah, very, very popular, for
Now,
sure. Right, so what do you got?
this is Victoria Street, which is the main east-west road through
Yep.
Temora. Britannia Street.
The
Dixon
longest,
Park.
the single longest street in Temora. It
Gallipoli.
certainly was. I don't think that's been surpassed yet, has it?
Gallipoli. I'm sure that's Gallipoli Street.
Yeah.
Gallipoli Street. And this must be, it's not Aurora, it's Gardner.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Fine little street, Gardner.
Yeah.
Fine little street.
But here's a row of houses, right?
Yeah.
And they all go back to about there. And then here's a row of houses, right? And they all go back to about there. If some genius back in the day had to put a road down through here, right?
Yeah.
Then we'd have a row of houses going back to those ones and a row of houses going back to those ones. And we could.
But is this land that person's backyard? Well, bugger him. I want a big backyard.
But these are massive
want a road.
backyards.
Good.
These are where they grow on all the rabbits.
That's where Australia was founded.
This
on
is
big
where
backyards.
the feral pests are having a bit of a field day.
No, the feral pests are having a field day in council chambers, state chambers, and federal parliament.
No.
That's where the feral pests are thriving.
But this is seriously, like, look at this. There's a house tucked in here, and I think that's the access. Let's have a look at it.
Look, there's clearly some random shit going on.
There is some random shit going on.
I have no problem with people having their big backyards. That's what Australia's all about. Everybody who wants a big backyard should get one if they can go out, work their ass off, and earn
You've
one.
got to pay for curb and gutter, sewage, all the rest of it. You need to have some sort of density, and that's just a bad use. So these blocks have led to this little tiny little access roads and all this inefficient land use. Seriously. You know, I'm certainly not anti people having big backyards.
You just hate people with big backyards. You're a backyardist.
No. Look at this. Look at this. There's a house there. Mate, they could have 77, they could have 2 tennis courts there.
Well, and what if they want to have to? They're good on them.
Look at this.
Yeah.
What is going on here?
Well, that's for my 2 tennis courts and a swimming pool. I don't swim and I don't play tennis, but if I want one, I'll have one.
I think it's,
Module update fast.
yeah, like, you know, and even if these people want to activate that space and say, oh, look, you know, I'm sick and tired of mowing this.
Sure.
I'd like to sell it. Well, they can't because there's no bloody access to it.
Well, they built the house at the front of the block. They probably should have thought about that.
Well, I think that's what everyone did back then. And I think they just thought something was going to happen out there.
It is what it is what it is. Really?
Well, like I say, I think it's just some of the most absurd planning that you've ever seen. Like, look at this. Yeah, that's how big that block is. And that's how big these blocks are. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, it's well designed. It's a, you know.
It's a bloody dog's breakfast.
Well, that's okay.
No, it's not.
It's got character and charm.
Oh, it's got character and charm. It's also a dog's breakfast. So that's where that's at. So I do think that there is some merit in master planning out of that area. For Mr. Cunningham to put forward that it's a huge land release is a huge release of gas on behalf of Mr. Cunningham.
Pulling his pecker a little bit.
It's a huge release of propaganda. It's nothing of the sort. It's just the beginning of a very long and difficult process, Mr. Cunningham. And if we even get something remotely approaching this shiny document, it'll be a miracle.
Yeah, fair enough.
So anyway, I hope to be made look a fool on that.
And that's the thing with you and I. I'm quite happy to be made look silly if I come out with something and I'm really concerned about it and somebody proves me wrong, I'm all for it. Here's one you'll enjoy. On Twitter this week, somebody accused me of only punching down on people.
Oh.
And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking the list of people that I like to hammer.
Yes.
And we start with, I don't know, who's usually on my list?
Elbow.
Prime ministers, deputy prime ministers, mayors,
yes,
MPs, government departments, big corporations, former deputy, tax commissioners, police officers who kill nanas.
Have they looked in the crystal ball and seen into the future where you're gonna be?
I'm sitting here. I'm thinking it was an interesting one this week. I've had a few interesting ones. I also got censored by. Obviously, I was punching down again. A very little known radio station or TV ABC. Station called ABC.
Yeah. I noticed that.
I thought it was funny and it fits into, I guess, what we do.
But they're not taking any more comments on that matter because their moderators have moved on to other topics.
Yeah, moderators have shit the bed. Yeah. Again, I can get banned from everything from Turkey MFM to our national broadcaster because I only punched down. Yes. So here's what it was, because it's fun, and I think our audience will find it fun if you haven't seen it on the Facebook post. Our mates at the ABC did a story / that young people are doing this and all these policies that matter and what do we have to do to get elected and blah, 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 blah. Now, these are the same jackasses when I did run in the federal election, held a candidates event in Gundagai.
They didn't invite you.
And they didn't invite the candidates. They only invited the candidates they thought could win. Yes. The Greens.
Yes.
Now, even the people who hate my guts in this area are going to vote for me before they vote for the Greens.
Yes, I think so.
I reckon that's a common bet. I guarantee the local mayor will put me above the Greens candidate if he has any credibility whatsoever, if I'm on a ballot. The Greens, the Labor Party, and of course Michael McCormack, who at least had the good decency to do a welcome to Dean event at the start of it. But here's what I responded with their little request. So, and I reckon a lot of the people who look at us here. Okay, easy. We lower all taxes. We stop men playing women's sports. Forget all your net zero fantasies. Leave the Paris Agreement. Leave the WHO. Defund the ABC on an ABC platform. Not the first time I've ever called for their defunding on their platform. Done it live a few times. Get rid of all middle-class welfare, enshrine free speech in the Australian Constitution, legalise self-defence, teach firearms, self-defence and weapons training to all of our citizens. Imagine the competence. Imagine the competence.
Imagine the reduction in petty crime.
Absolutely. Stop all immigration until the housing and cost of living crisis is solved. I don't actually oppose immigration if it's useful, productive, people coming here to work, contribute, and do a good job. I'm all for that. If you want to come over here and get on the dole, you can fuck right off, go back where you come from. And if you don't like the country and you don't like our culture, kiss my ass, the plane
But even to the
that way.
point, even to the point, just give us a couple of years to build some houses, would you?
Invest heavily in rebooting and rebuilding our coal-fired power stations, and that'll be me on day one. I will get started on day two. Well, the ABC has responded. Thank you for your comments. Unfortunately, we need to close this discussion now as our moderators have moved on to other posts. However, if you'd like to tell us what matters to you in this federal election, go here and click the banner to have your say. I was having my say ABC Radio. Oh, well, actually, it was ABC News was the page.
They've closed the post there.
They've
The
closed
moderators
it.
have moved on to
We've
other
moved
posts.
on. We have other things that we
We've
need
moved
to
on. We
go
don't
to.
talk about
We
this.
don't like this sort of context of discussion.
No.
You know, they're fucking off their heads, these people. And I wouldn't mind betting that result.
It wasn't as bad as the treatment I got, though. They didn't say be very, very careful, Mr. McCarthy.
You were very.
You be very careful.
Yeah, I think somebody says that to me in a meeting, they're going to get smack in the chops.
Well,
That's not going to happen. No, you want to throw little threats and warnings and little dark arts, chances are you will get a smack fair in the mouth.
that's where it goes.
I think it's fair and reasonable too. If somebody makes a threat, that you turn around and go, well, I'm not going to make a threat. I'll make a promise. You make a little threat, you get. I don't advocate for violence, but here's what I do. Do no harm, but take no shit.
Yeah.
I'm nobody's victim. You should be nobody's victim. Nobody else should be anybody's victim. And there's little insidious bullies who run around. Oh, sorry, I'm punching down.
Yes.
You know, the little insidious bullies and overlords that think they're, you know, on some, you know, tough guy shit or scary. We're going to do dark arts and whatever. You know, you can.
Maybe they've got some occult.
They can kiss my royal rectum.
Spells.
No doubt. When they have their little meetings down at the special hall, wear their little aprons and dresses and, you know, what else they do? Play with their crosses and whatever the frig they do. Don't care, not interested, but you can absolutely kiss the royal rectum, my royal rectum. I'm a people person.
That might be one of their levels.
Yeah, I'll give them a level, no problem at all. I'll tell you what.
Part of the initiation. Kiss the royal.
While we're on that topic, did you see the unique artwork over in Wagga this week?
Yes.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
or should we give the people a bit of a rundown for anyone who didn't see it?
Have
you got access to it? So look, this week in Wagga, now there's a shop over in Wagga. I don't know who they are, some sort of marketing mob. I don't know anything about these people, but they've been crapping on with all the pro-Gaza shit in their shop window now for months and months. I know I have some friends who are a bit lean towards a bit of Gaza. They've got some Gaza sympathies. I know some people who have Israeli sympathies. I think all war is shit, and it just means that poor people in these countries die on both sides at the behest of the wealthy, powerful people. No. So all the war's shit. But here's what's happened. The same shop this week has rolled out this.
There's your poster.
We'll call it a unique piece of artwork. I think they've called it a take on Hogan's Heroes. And our illustrious member of Parliament has seemingly shit himself. So it's not a very nice poster. I don't endorse that kind of thing. It's pretty nasty. It's pretty down in the gutter. And I do detest the fact that these sort of pricks want to call everybody they disagree with a Nazi or a fascist. I'm happy to call them assholes or people I don't like very much. But the whole Nazi term for everybody you disagree, it's pretty you know, asinine. It's not much going on there. But you've got Michael here and his little Nazi outfit.
But even to the point,
you've got Dutton here, and then we've got Gina Reinhardt and Clive Palmer.
The newspaper have pixelated that.
Oh, you got to protect Michael, but
yeah, but so it's like the rest of them, Dutton, they're quite happy to put
in the middle.
Gina and Clive.
Poor old Clive.
I think Michael has insisted that he be
pixelated. But now, you can look down here too at some of the stuff out the front of this shop.
But now look at this. This is from the Daily Advertiser. Now Michael used to be the editor.
Yeah.
Of the Daily. So I'd say he would be able to get
a little bit of. He'd have to have a little bit of a little bit of play there. You need to get a subscription to this mob because they keep asking you for money.
Yes.
But that was massive news. It went pretty viral pretty quick around the area. Michael came out and declared that the police were supposed to go and do something about it.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple of things with that.
Well, the police looked at it and they said there's nothing that you can do about it. And they've just brought in a whole bunch of these hurt feeling laws. Yeah.
There's all this shit coming down like a ton of bricks at everybody. And again, I may disagree with what you're saying, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Even when you say nasty things about me, But this is the sort of shit where I go, Michael, you need to toughen up, son. Like, you're on the taxpayer teat. You've been on the taxpayer teat for a bloody long time. People are going to say nasty, hurtful things about you, and they're going to treat you nastily. It's happened to me, and I've never taken a government dollar. It's happened to you. You're currently getting a little stipend. It goes both ways. We've seen the damage that the National Party can do to people when they want to. If we remember Barilaro and a lot of stuff that went on there got pretty nasty. The National Party are not above reproach in this space, but the National Liberal Party argument is that they're a free speech party and a free expression party right up until they disagree with what you're saying. They're no fucking better than the Greens and the Labor Party. They are all absolute.
No, they actually, they're one of the big drivers on a lot of this. They control the local media.
Absolutely they do.
And that's the whole thing, that these people are mouthpieces for their political views.
Yeah.
And so they're free speech as long as it's our political views.
Free speech as long as you listen to what we say. A bit like the mayor of Coolman crapped on with the other week.
Yeah.
I'm saying this, and I'll say it very loud. I think that's a really, really shit image. I think it's a pretty low image. I also get really, really tired of everybody using the whole "you're a Nazi" if I disagree with you, because there's no evidence a Nazi is a Nazi, right? It's a very broad term. Same as this whole fascist thing. It's just so diluted, and fucked. That's a pretty low shot from that shop. I imagine they're going to get a certain amount of backlash, but I also imagine they were getting backlash for their Gaza shit as well. But it goes both ways. If you're going to be in the ring, if that shop has problems with vandals, which it probably will, I would be very surprised if there didn't, if there wasn't backlash along those lines. Kids can, and when I say kids, I mean grown-ups with nappies on, and there's plenty of them. I can absolutely see them, and they've got to be prepared for that. In the same way,
I just hope they've got cameras out the front, and I hope they catch those adults in nappies.
Oh, well, I'm just saying they've got to be. If you're going to get in the ring, you and I turn around every time we do this. We know there's possible backlash. We cop it on the chin. We wear it like grown-ups.
No. There's someone who can come out, like, everyone's entitled to come out on some sort of a platform and say, I don't agree with that, and these are the reasons I don't agree with it. Going to any further length than that is crossing the line.
Where's the line? People have, people suggested I should sue the Temora Bugle for certain stuff that went on in there. I fully support their right to call me names.
Yeah, as long as I don't. As long as there's a certain level where it has to be accurate, particularly in a newspaper.
I think it's always nice if it's accurate, for sure.
Yeah, but it has to be factual.
But if it's not accurate and you get smacked, or your shop has problems, or you have problems as
if someone wants to pull their custom from that business, that's
absolutely,
that's a sensible reaction.
I support that entirely.
If they feel that strongly, I reckon there'll be other people who say, "Good on you."
Oh, they'll gain some business out of it, and they will lose other, and that's what's going to happen.
I think the gentleman in question who runs the business said he's been in business for over 30 years. I think he's got a pretty solid business. I think he feels quite comfortable to express himself.
And you know what? I support his right to express himself.
And I do, and I really do.
I might think he's a complete knob. I don't know the guy, but I might like him.
I just think it's refreshing, and it's a bit the same as it's his shop front. He wants to put a poster up. I think they've done themselves a great disservice by blowing it up.
Yeah.
If Michael had drove past and gone,
controversy creates cash is a very, very common statement.
If Michael had drove past and gone, that's in poor taste, and continued on his merry way and went and helped someone,
or had he gone and pulled up outside of it and he just went, have a fucking go at this.
Yeah. He could have done his own little video. Just have a look at this. This is what I put up with every day.
Yeah. Woe is me. Vote for me in the
election work.
Vote for me in the election because that's what it is. I'm calling the police.
Yeah.
My feelings are hurt. I'm emotional. Leave me alone. Like, what a load of shit.
Yeah.
Have you got any thoughts on the federal election so far?
I just know that it's, as stated last week, I think it's a choice between arsenic or strychnine.
Yep.
And I was interesting just to hear some commentary on the polls, that Albo's marginally in front. and that's not hard to believe when you consider the opposition. However, it's really sad that that's the choices. I think it's incumbent upon everybody who wants to make any sort of meaningful difference to not vote for either of the major parties and to find an independent and to send a message clearly that there's enough. We need to send a message, and it doesn't matter who you vote for as long as it's not one of the major parties. We need to send the message that we're not happy with the status quo.
Yeah, fair enough too. Like,
You know, that's where
I also will, when you say an independent, make sure that the independent you're voting for, you like, is actually independent. I had a conversation with somebody who I'm going to call moderately politically aware.
Yep.
Last week about a, that Monica, what's her name, down in Kooyong. She took Josh, what's his face, Frydenberg's seat.
Yeah.
The doctor, whatever her name is. And they said to me, "Oh, we just met her. She seemed really great. She's an independent. She's
not independent. She got bankrolled by bloody Holmes of Court."
And that was the response I had. I said, well, because the comment was, and I won't say who it was, but the comment was, she seemed great. She was lovely. She's independent. She's talking about truth and integrity.
Yeah.
The first wheels come off that when you're pretending to be an independent.
Yes.
You lose all credibility to be truthful and talk about true and integrity when Simon Holmes of Court, Climate 200 is funding you and you're pretending to be not in a political party. The Teals is a political party without being a political party. That's what they are. They're funded by the same gang, and and that's what they are. So look, we'll sort this out.
Look,
I'm gonna do some, going into. I'll start.
I'm certainly not going to tell people how to vote. I'm telling you, I'm not I don't believe in that, but I'm telling you, I'm not going to vote.
What I will do is the same thing I do before every election. Is I will roll out a. I'll put out my own how to vote card for certainly this electorate. I'll point out any candidates that I think are worthy of support. And obviously, party-wise, even though I'm no longer an active member in the Libertarian Party, I tend to err towards them. In saying that, they've got some candidates who I couldn't pick out of a police lineup. So I don't know what's going on in head office up there. I'm not just going to blindly follow them.
No.
If they want any support from me, I'll have to have a bit of a chat to them and see who, what, where, why, and when, including one in the Riverina, a Libertarian candidate. In all honesty, I don't know her. Don't know anything about her. That may change in coming weeks. But, that's sort of where it is. Heath wants to know my thoughts on One Nation. They usually go close to my number 2, big fella. They've got a couple of policies I love. They've got a couple of policies I really don't love. One of my really good mates, I'm going to try and get on the show, Stewie Bonds, he left One Nation. He previously ran a couple of federal elections ago and got 20-something%. He was a whisker off getting elected up in the Hunter. He's a miner. Check out Stu's stuff. Absolutely, everyone check out Stewie Bonds. He's gone back to the fold, so he left One Nation, went independent a bit, hung out with me and some guys for a bit, but he's gone back with Pauline at the moment. Pauline, they've worked out their differences, certainly to the tune of where they can work together to try and unseat the Hunter, which is a Labor-held seat. So there's a lot of stuff a lot of policies I like at the moment that One Nation's come out with. I'm not going to lie to you, I've seen quite a few that I think are really good.
And look, a vote for One Nation, in my opinion, is still better than a vote for either of
any of the majors. Look, and there's going to be people who are going to bang on about, put the majors last, That's my strategy usually, within reason. And then when I look at, depending on some of the horrific independents that are colouring on in the middle there, I'll try and work it out. But I'll make my how to vote card very public very early for anybody who sort of goes, oh, well, hang on, what's he think? I'm not running this time.
So you can have your say.
I've got enough stuff going on at the moment. I haven't got time to be running. Even a short campaign is going to be bloody too much work for me at this stage. But there are going to be a few good candidates around. One of
the really topical things I stumbled across during the week, and it's got some relevance to stuff that we've spoken about in the past, and it's not election related. Shell Harbour Council apparently Here's a headline from the Illawarra Mercury.
Yep.
Shell Harbour Council employees begging for help with bullying, says an MP. Now, this MP's mentioned this in Parliament.
Yeah,
Now,
right.
Bullying, this is a headline from the 26th of May, 2024, so it's last week.
Yep.
Bullying systemic, widespread at Shell Harbour Council. Survey reveals 90% of Shell Harbour Council staff witness bullying, raising concerns about workplace culture. And on it goes. Now, it might interest you to know that our current general manager learnt their craft at
Shell Harbour
Council.
Yep.
So
I believe she worked with a cousin of mine who was working down there at one stage.
well, it sounds as though Shell Harbour Council is an absolute cesspit for bullying. So one observation I'll make is that Temora Shire Council is a cesspit for bullying.
Yes.
And it doesn't appear as that, well, is there some connection there? Is this a learned...
Look, I'm not going to lie to you. I think every council's wired that way. I think that's just how they're designed. I think it's fundamentally how they're built. They
are, because they've got this power that they're granted by the state that they wield unevenly,
yep,
and somewhat recklessly, and that causes great division in the community. And there's just the haves and the have-nots in these spaces, and we've witnessed it. You know, the mayor not giving me an opportunity to speak and have my say in a council meeting, and basically telling me to be careful and standing over. You know,
that's, you know, look, that sort of shit. You know, it is an attempted intimidation. It's an attempted bullying.
Well,
and
I didn't blow up. I just let him have his little hissy fit, and got my point across. And then I consulted the code of meeting practice, and I've made myself aware. And basically, that was just a situation where I didn't know what the rules were.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wasn't going to jeopardise
pardon me,
some sort of a breach on my part.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't aware of the rules. Now I've familiarised myself with the rules.
Yes.
The next time he tries that shit on, I'll pull the rules out and I'll say, no, this is what it says. Shut your mouth.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is what it says. Are you going to try and speak over the top of me? I'm allowed to have this long. You know. So that was one of those situations where it was my fault because I didn't know
the rules. Didn't know the rules of engagement. Yeah,
but it was his fault because he was being a bully. This is the thing. He's been in there, that chamber for 20 years.
He knows the rules.
He knows the rules.
And if he doesn't know the rules, well, then he's extra special.
Yes, get out of the chair.
Extra special.
But that's the major point. He took advantage of someone who didn't know the rules to bully them and shut them up because I was saying stuff that he didn't want to talk about.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, that's bullying 101. It's interesting just to see that that's pretty much the form guide for most councils. Obviously, it's out of control at Shell Harbour.
For sure. Without it.
What are they going to do about it? Not.
They won't do a wazoo about it. And there'll be a couple of resignations. There'll be the odd fall on the sword who will get transferred out to Temora, or they get transferred to Leeton or wherever.
You know, Shell Harbour Council will come out with all these grand statements that are completely false, saying that they don't do this and they don't do that and they don't do something else, and it'll just be a load of absolute horseshit.
Sorry.
Watch that space.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll get some
info and we'll talk about it. Actually, I've got some folks that work down around that area, Shell Harbour.
I'll get some background info. That'll be my homework for next week.
Pauline's a little too controlling, in my opinion. That's 100%. That's very true, and that's why I could never be a part of One Nation per se. And there have been discussions at various points with other members.
I suppose the one thing you've really got to say is, what would One Nation be without Pauline?
Well, the title's in the name. Pauline Hanson's One Nation.
Yes, and if Pauline Hanson can't be controlling in that party, well, and
that's what you sign up for if you're going to be a candidate for One Nation.
Pauline Hanson's One Nation party.
You toe that line. It's no different if you're going to join whatever Clive shit show's running at the time. Sometimes Clive comes out with the odd policy I like. but you've got to put up the fact that Clive tells you what's what, who, what, where, why, how, and when, and there is no thought of your own. For a freedom party, they do lack a lot of freedom.
Yeah. And you're pretty much an unpaid propaganda machine.
That's all you are, yeah. Well, no, he pays you quite often. I know the candidates in the last federal election for Clive's gang were all getting paid.
Yeah, you're right.
There was a certain wage for those that needed it, and X, Y, Z. So there's a few bucks in it for them. But yeah, look, I feel the same about it, and I've had discussions with not Pauline, but a few other people in and around One Nation at various points, sort of come over and join us, and da da da. It's just not a party that I could go and.
Well, like I say,
I couldn't go and represent them.
The whole idea of a party, I believe, that you give up your independence and you give up your own opinions, and it doesn't interest me.
Yeah,
and that's why I think Joe McGurr is probably an effective representative over in Wagga, because he's not affiliated with these parties, and he's got a bit of clout.
Yeah.
Mins comes and sees him when he comes to town.
Yeah, fair enough too.
You know what I mean?
Look, I pretty much the way McGurr, and I don't know McGurr personally either. The way he behaves through COVID, I would have been quite happy to sort of launch him off a bridge as well, along with most of the others. But if he's a genuine independent, then more power to him. The party system, look, I was with the Libertarians, for 10, 15 years. And at no stage did anybody in any capacity come to me and tap me on the shoulder and say, you can't say this, you can't do that.
No,
you can't.
Yeah.
I never ever had that. And that's why I was there for as long as I was. And I mean, to be fair, obviously in later years, I was more in the hierarchy. I was a reasonable way up, and I certainly didn't do that to anybody either. It was just a case of checking that they're a fit, if your principles fit. So that's, I mean, I could see some benefits for people who are very individually minded. You can go there and you can still be individually minded, and the policy suite's big enough that you don't have to touch topics that you don't like. They've actually one of the parties that have a full policy suite. So not to say go and join them, not to say that they're the only party in the country. They're the only one that I would be affiliated with. I do like what I've seen out of Jared Rennick's little crew. But again, I worry that they're going to end up being another little flash in the pan that's going to dilute votes away a little bit. And you've got Clive dragging them away again with well-meaning people.
I just want to see less votes going to the major parties so that they get a message that they have to actually start talking to the people and listening to the people.
Yeah, and it's just very hard to unite that.
You're never going to. But we just need to show a dissatisfaction with those two parties.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Look, it's been close to 30% of Australians have voted for a minor or whatever over the last few years. But look, is that enough to really knock the sales out of these pricks?
The mayor incumbent in Temora can quite rightly say he got the most votes in the last election.
Absolutely, last 3 elections.
Yeah, but I can quite happily say I got the second most twice.
Yeah,
I backed up my good performance in the first election.
Yeah,
with getting the second most amount of votes in the second election that I've contested.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy with that outcome. I think it's a great result.
When we first spoke about it in the first time when you went around, and that was one of the things I said to you, if you're going to go in there and be an outlaw councillor, you absolutely need to get voted on in your own right and high up that food chain to have that credibility. Because we live in an electorate where people can get on with 69 primary votes.
Yes.
If you get on there with 69 primary votes, you're pretty much there to make up the numbers. The people didn't overwhelmingly want
these people who get in with those low numbers are probably the bane of the whole operation, because they'll sit there and they'll vote.
Absolutely.
How they're told to vote. They won't bring their own mind and they won't bring their own opinion.
And that's the problem.
Yes, and that's the whole. Look, the biggest issue I see, and I'm going to elaborate on this over the next few months.
Yeah.
The biggest issue I see at Temora Shire Council at the moment is the quality of the decision making and the quality of the direction. When I see the way that people like the current mayor and the deputy mayor think and operate in the chamber and out of the chamber, just in their day-to-day operations within council, and I see just how I believe it's self-serving.
Yep.
And I believe it's targeted very much to people that they're connected, their gang.
Yeah, of course. Well and truly.
And I do believe that's how it is.
Yep.
That means the whole town, due to this poor leadership, is disaffected. So instead of having some strong, sensible leadership with a really positive, inclusive direction, we've got a very splintered.
It depends on what you want out of your council. And again, I want nothing out of my council.
No, but
So
if you've got sensible people in there who are in there with the right.
Well, but
for the right reasons.
your view of right and their view of right is different. And that's the problem
their view of right is
that's
we know what you want and we're going to deliver it to you, and we're just going to make
and
sure.
you're going to cop it and you're going to enjoy it and you're going to absolutely. Look, but that's part of the problem is there is an element of the society that would want that.
No, there's an element of society who think they want that until they actually see what's being done to them.
Well, but that's just human nature.
Yeah.
We see that all the time. That's why the Nationals and the Liberal Party and the Labor Party have dominated politics.
No, but that's like
the average punter doesn't care about this stuff to the degree that you or I do.
But
sadly,
the average punter will sit there and lap that shit up.
Absolutely.
Huge land release. Oh, fantastic.
We watched, the brainwashing that went on through COVID, which was extreme. We've watched the climate change hysteria and this bullshit about we're all going to die. And a scared population's a compliant population.
But even to the point, like I say, it just poor quality decision makers lead to poor outcomes. And these outcomes manifest over a long period of time. And we'll sit here one day and we'll go, what happened to tomorrow? Well, we had 20 years of shit leadership.
That's every council currently in Australia.
No, but there are councils out there. Like you look at different people. There's a councillor I follow, Daria Calander.
Yeah, I think I put you onto Daria down in Victoria.
She seems to be energetic.
She's great. She's the mayor down there now.
Yeah,
she's a rock star.
Yes, and have a heart in the right place. And I believe she's leading an energetic. And
I reckon we could get Daria to come on here and have a chat about what she's up to. She'd come on here if we asked her. I've got no doubt.
They've had a big issue with their CEO, but she seems to be handling that.
Don't they all? Don't they all?
But like I say, I look at the way the decisions are made. I look at how the reports aren't what would you say, vetted and questioned, and I believe that council officers are protected species, and you're not allowed to make any comment regarding the council officers and things like that. And I think that just leads to poor decision making and very poor outcomes for the community overall. Yeah. And I think, well, you've only got to look at the heavy vehicle bypass to realise that the inactivity in that space is a lack of leadership.
It's only been 60 years.
Yes. So there's a complete
that's very
lack of leadership in that space. There's so many areas in town where a lack of leadership has really shown.
But again, you still land back in the same spot of some people like that shit, some people like this shit. Then you got me who doesn't like any of it. I mean, I like you better than I like that, but I mean,
I'll tell you. Here's the best example of it. We've spent the equivalent of $1 million on the town hall, and as far as I'm concerned, we've got a frigging dog of a town hall.
Yeah.
For that $1 million, we've got no value for money, and we're not going to get another $1 million for another 50 years.
Yep.
So it was built 1950 or 60.
Yep.
So 70 years later, we get a roll of the dice to do a refurb on it. We stuff that up completely.
Yeah.
So when are we going to get another chance to do another refurb on it? Another 50.
Probably.
We're stuck with it. We're stuck with a basket case that's not fit for purpose.
Yeah.
They completely effed it up.
Sure.
Bad, incompetent management.
Sure, but that bad, incompetent management, certainly as far as the council laws go, were voted in. Now,
yes, but
we could argue.
And they sit there with this vague look on their face.
Most of vague.
And they don't ask any of the sensible questions. And they don't, and when someone actually pipes up and tries to hold some of this decision making to account, they get vilified, they get set upon, they get demonized, they get painted as I'm telling people that the decision making processes are very poor, and I've got many examples to demonstrate it.
Yes. I don't disagree.
They've spent the best part of $100,000 on codes of conduct against me, when that could well have been spent fixing footpaths or potholes or something sensible.
Yep,
that's the quality of the decision making.
Look, and you're right, and there's no doubt in my mind that that's the case. But again, an apathetic population keep voting in the same shit.
Well,
not just locally,
but no,
state,
that's
federal.
part of the whole.
People vote
that's
for
part
the
of the whole.
machine. It is, you know, they're apathetic and they get the government
Wizard of
they
Oz.
deserve.
It's the whole Wizard of Oz spell that's been cast.
We get the governments we deserve, and we tend to tolerate shit.
Yes, but also when you pick up the paper and if you believe the propaganda, it's a wonderful place. It's the friendly town.
Yeah, as long
And
as
where, you know,
as long as you're not getting thrown off the balcony at a pub, or
look at where do we?
you know,
Yeah.
you know, like what are a few of the other extreme controversies?
Oh,
we've had
well,
we've had
I
a few,
think there was someone who was trying to do a service on a car with some tools, but it turned out to be a person that was in the chair instead of a car.
Yeah, well, there was a bit of that. There was some drugs being run out of here at one stage into Canberra.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things.
Yeah,
and there's plenty of,
there's that happens all around.
but that's just part and parcel. What I'm saying is, a lot of these big decisions are being avoided, due to a lack of guts on behalf of the key leaders.
Oh, that doesn't surprise anyone.
There's no courage in that space, and they're avoiding doing anything meaningful in that space because it's going to probably affect them.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be affected by it. They just want to tell everyone it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
It's wonderful. We're doing a great job. We're amazing.
Keep smiling and be happy. It's wonderful.
Yes, you'll own nothing and be happy.
Yes, and it's wonderful.
Yes, it's really good.
And we're special. Just remember, Dean, we're special.
I always remember the way I just said.
Timor is a very special place full of very special people. And you just go to bed tonight
feeling special
with your teddy and just go, we're special. You'll sleep all
night. My mummy doesn't live here. I'll have to get Auntie Di to tuck me in
and tell you you're special.
The fuck.
No, and that's the load of bullshit because we're not special. There's a lot of areas for improvement, and the sooner people actually wake up and work out what's going on.
Work out where it's at. That's
where it's at.
I agree, boys. Listen to the Monaro Council meeting today. It was like watching Play School, but Andrew and Ruben did well with what they had to work with. And I imagine most of these council meetings all around the countryside are in the same sort of half-assed
Well, I can't wait
situation.
until our council meeting to live stream that. I think that's going to be happening in the not too distant future.
Well, has it been nominated to do that? I'll go down there and run the camera for that. I'll make a special effort for that.
There was an email that came out the other day from the mayor who seemed to be very upset that the Minister for Local Government indicated that it was unavoidable that we would have to live stream our meetings.
Unavoidable?
Yeah, you might be special, but you're not that epic.
Yeah. Fucking live stream it.
Yeah.
So that everybody can watch them and play them back if they want to watch them.
Yes.
You'll notice we do this live. We don't seem to have anything to hide. I mean, we haven't got a script.
I won't have a problem live streaming.
We don't come in here with any pre-written script. We don't come in here with. Do you know what you didn't do at the start of the program?
Oh, the disclaimer.
You didn't do your disclaimer. We'll have to do it at the end.
We can do it as long as it's in there.
As long as it's in there. Everything previously said in this show is the opinion of myself directly.
There's the script for tonight's show.
Oh shit.
Okay. My name's Anthony Irvine. I'm a councillor on Temora Shire Council. None of the views that I've expressed on this show tonight are the views of Temora Shire Council. They're mine and mine alone.
That's the important part. I mean, my disclaimer is just part of the fun, really, because I can give a rat's ass.
Yes,
that's more a formality for you.
I'm glad you reminded me though.
I just popped into my head. Yes, Bruce. We'll all eat cockroaches. We'll own nothing. We'll be happy. And they've been advertising that cockroach milk is higher in protein than cow's milk, and we should be drinking that. And I've seen so much of that shit coming, like propagandized around at the moment.
My hands are a bit big for milking cockroaches.
Let me tell you, I've got plenty of spray guns.
I've seen some big cockroaches, but I still can't imagine.
And people go, oh, conspiracy theory, all this shit.
No.
World Economic Forum. Check that shit out, people. It exists. They fucking have a website. They're not hiding the shit that they're pushing.
No.
And our mate Klaus, my mate Klaus, again, I'm probably being accused of punching down by picking on this poor billionaire.
Yes.
But this parasite who wants us to eat cockroaches is a cockroach, and he's running this communist socialist shit that will have us all eating cockroaches if he gets his way, because apparently we're going to make the earth end because cows fart too much. And the planet's very, very fragile because, we're here. What was a big fucking volcano that went off a couple of years ago? They let more emissions and shit out into the atmosphere in about 2 hours than has happened in the last 20 years. It was ludicrous. And we're going to die, we're going to die. One volcano has a hissy fit. And there was far more. That's part of nature. If we didn't have any of this CO2, we'd absolutely be buggered. Nothing would grow. People are so stupid it hurts my head. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I reckon we're coming to the wind up of tonight's show. It's still been a good little show, and I think we've been hovering around that 20 to 30 people all night tuning in. And that was about where it was last week. I think there was little peaks and troughs and what have you.
No, we'll get some more guests on. We'll ramp it up, but we just had to get a bit of housekeeping done this week. Catch up on a bit of homework. So the homework for me next week. Now, I gave you some homework and you haven't done it.
I've been reading through. I've made some notes.
Have you found? Because I gave you the financial figures.
I've got a list there, and I've got an accountant who's agreed to come and sit down and have a bit of a play with some numbers for me. We're gonna have a little.
We'll have a look through that.
We're gonna have a little tinker.
Someone said to me the other day, "How much does this cost?" I said, "You tell me."
Yeah, that's right. We're gonna have a bit of a look. We're gonna have a bit of a play. We're gonna make some people cry who I feel deserve to cry. And I certainly don't. I certainly don't feel bad.
There's enough money. If there's 100,000 in the budget for codes of conduct, there's enough money in the budget for a box of tissues.
I reckon there'd have to be. So, ladies and gentlemen, everybody who's tuning in, of course, those subscriptions on the YouTube, those likes, the shares are really important. Just share the link. Just share and go, hey guys, look what I watched tonight. These guys are a bit mad or whatever. Whatever you want to say, love us or hate us, doesn't really matter, but the likes, shares, all that shit does actually matter, feeds the algorithm, then more eyeballs on product, and then hopefully a few other people get brave as well, which is a big part of this.
You might be able to start a business and do the live streaming for council.
Council, I could do that. How much do I charge them here? It'd have to be exorbitant. Like whatever it's worth, I would at least charge 4 or 5 times. That's how councils work.
Well, consultants do get well paid. They use a lot of consultants.
It's very serious business for sure. But no, look, we appreciate you all tuning in for sure. We do appreciate the support. Last week's was great. I'm going to have a list of guests. We'll try and get them in.
I think it's hilarious that this is. When we're getting over 5,000 views of a show,
let's not get too excited. It happened once. Yeah, usually we're around 1,000.
When you're competing against a more independent that sells 1,400 papers a week, and they've been around for over 100 years, so they've had a bit of practice. And you've got Pterodactyl FM, who probably get 6 people listening to a show.
Well, I certainly would now that I'm over here doing this.
Yeah, I just think it's hilarious because the only reason this exists is because we got deplatformed off the local radio station and got a flogging off the local newspaper.
Yeah,
if I had a fair and even platform on the local newspaper and we were able to just talk to
the 6 people and play some songs.
About local issues on the local radio station, then this wouldn't be in existence.
Self-inflicted. Keep poking me in the eye, people.
Just a bit.
Yeah, keep doing it.
When we got ratings like Joe Rogan.
Oh, well, look, when that happens, that'll be a different state. We might even get a different setup in here.
If anyone wants to send us some advertising, we'll do it.
Oh, we can come up with something for sure. I'm a capitalist. I'm a hardcore capitalist.
We are for sale.
Well, no. There's programming time potentially for sale, but there's no pay for
opinions. Opinions not for sale.
Opinions not for sale. Not for sale ever. It doesn't matter how much money you throw at us. Couldn't care less. If I wanted to take money for my opinions, I would have changed it years and years ago. I'd be a member of parliament now, according to members of the Liberal Party. Because they said to me, if you just change this and this, you'd be fantastic as a candidate. So you want me to sell my soul? And so it's well, yeah, but you'll get elected. Thanks, should be right. Not interested. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you next Thursday night.